Hello everyone, Mike here, and I'm back with another bit of fantasy wrestling booking. This time we're taking a look at the old Vince McMahon illegitimate child storyline. Of course, in the end, they went with Hornswoggle in what was very much a bit of a mess, and just you could tell that they really didn't have a plan when they put that together. But the original plan, which I guess technically would be considered a rumor, but everyone knows what the original plan was to have Mr. Kennedy as the illegitimate son. So today I'm going to look at how I would have booked it if Mr. Kennedy had remained as the illegitimate son of Vince McMahon. So we're going to start September 10th, the night they make the big reveal. They, spend the show building it up, and then finally, Mr. Kennedy is revealed. And Vince is thrilled about this. If you recall, Vince had been seen really taking an interest in Kennedy, so he's thrilled that the guy that he already liked is his illegitimate son. 6 days later, we have, I believe, Unforgiven. And Kennedy's not booked on that show. He is spending most of the night in little backstage vignettes hanging out with Vince, having the whole, the carrots and celery with hummus, as they relax backstage, walking around, bossing people around, basically really building the relationship between the two of them. So finally we then reach No Mercy in October, I believe. Now, we open the way that the show actually did. Triple H wins the WWE Championship in a match against Randy Orton. Then Vince comes out and announces, "Your night's not done yet, pal. Tonight, you're going to defend that title against my son, Mr. Kennedy McMahon." And that's what they're calling him at this point, is Mr. Kennedy McMahon. So later on the night, Kennedy gets his match against Triple H. Vince tries to get involved, ends up introducing a chair into the match. Triple H gets a hold of it, uses it, disqualification. Kennedy wins, but Triple H keeps the title. But then Randy Orton comes out and says he wants to invoke his rematch for the title now. Again, similar to what actually happened at No Mercy that year. So they have their match, but Kennedy comes out, gets involved, and allows Triple H to win. The next night on Raw, Kennedy comes out and says, no, Orton's not getting that title. I am taking that title from Triple H. Nobody else is. And, that's why he interfered in the match. Orton comes out. He is mad. He wants to tear Kennedy apart for ruining his title shot. Vince gets between them, announces, all right, Cyber Sunday, it's going to be the two of you one-on-one in a number one contenders match. The fans get to pick the stipulation because Cyber Sunday, and that's how it all works. And I could see them doing one of those where one of the match options is the old Vince Russo special, a championship match contract on a pole. Then we get a no DQ match and a no holds barred match. But Vince, aren't those the same thing? No, pal. They're two completely different things. Now, regardless of what kind of match ended up getting picked, and just for the sake of argument, I'm going to say no disqualification. But regardless, Kennedy gets the victory in the match, and he now will get a shot at Triple H's title at the Survivor Series. So we move to the Survivor Series, and Vince stacks the deck. He does not want another mistake like the last time. So he sets up a special guest referee, MVP. He also is in the corner himself. and they're doing everything they can, but it looks like Triple H is going to manage to defy the odds and somehow get the win. Then Orton comes out. Orton hits an RKO on Triple H. Kennedy gets the pin. 1, 2, 3. We have a new WWE champion. And the show ends with Kennedy McMahon, Vince, MVP, and Randy Orton all raising each other's arms in victory, as Orton is now part of the group along with Kennedy McMahon and MVP. We go on to Armageddon, where Kennedy McMahon defends the title against Chris Jericho. McMahon is in the corner again, and Jericho gets a tap out with the Walls of Jericho. It's like, wow, he only kept the title for a month. Jericho's the new champion. But no, then Vince gets on the mic and kind of pulls a thing he's done in the past. It's like, wait a minute. I just want to remind all of you that this match is no submissions. So, of course, the match continues. Jericho gets distracted by Vince. Kennedy hits the mic check. 1, 2, 3. Kennedy retains. Then we move on to the Royal Rumble, where Kennedy will defend the title against Jeff Hardy, who at Armageddon faced Triple H in a number 1 contenders match. Hardy wins. That actually did happen. So Kennedy defends against Hardy. Now in this one, Kennedy manages to beat Hardy clean. Or, maybe a little bit of cheating on it himself, but no interference, no messy stuff like that, because while we do have him as our villain, we don't want him to look so weak that he can't win anything on his own. We want him to have at least a little bit of credibility. So Kennedy beats Hardy on his own. But the next night on Raw, Kennedy and Vince are out in the ring having a good old time, and then out comes Stephanie. And Stephanie reveals Mr. Kennedy is not Vince's illegitimate son. He never was. This whole illegitimate son thing was all a ploy by Kennedy to get into the good graces of Vince and get Vince's help to propel his career. Now, Vince at first doesn't believe this, but Kennedy, meanwhile, has been kind of leaned up against the ropes, kind of looking out in the crowd. And as Vince asks him, is this true? Kennedy kind of gives a little... And he reveals that, yes, it was completely true. He used Vince McMahon to get what he wanted. Now he's the top dog. He doesn't need Vince anymore. He doesn't need to continue this charade. And Vince is just in shock, because as we've established, he loved having Kennedy as a son. So similar to when the whole Triple H Stephanie thing first started, Vince just kind of leaves the ring and walks out of the arena without saying a word. He's just completely stunned. But Stephanie, on the other hand, she's not taking this lying down. So she announces that Kennedy's going to defend his title at No Way Out in an Elimination Chamber match. And it's going to be Kennedy, Triple H, Jeff Hardy, Chris Jericho, Randy Orton, and Umaga. And Kennedy has to start. He's going to be one of the first 2 in the ring. So the match begins. Kennedy manages to survive. He's fighting his way through. Finally, it's down to him and Triple H. And through chicanery, Kennedy finally manages to get the win, retaining his title. Not pleasing Stephanie at all. This begins building us up to WrestleMania, where Kennedy will defend the title against the Royal Rumble winner, John Cena. We get a lot of buildup of Stephanie just trying to set up all these hurdles that Kennedy would have to jump through. But Cena, being the whole honorable wrestler that he is just like, no, stop. Get out of this. I don't want you involved in this. I'm going to beat him, and I'm going to beat him myself. Finally, WrestleMania comes. And things just seem to be falling apart for Kennedy. His hotel got canceled, so he had nowhere to stay the night before. His dressing room, there is not one set for him, so he had nowhere to dress. Basically, everything that could go wrong is going wrong for him, and he is just a mess as he gets ready to defend the title against Cena. Now, as the match is happening, ref gets bumped. Kennedy gets a chair, blasts Cena with it. The referee starts to wake. Kennedy goes for the cover. 1, 2, lights go out. After a couple of moments, they're back on. There's nobody there. It's nothing like that. But Kennedy's just looking around completely confused. And then he turns into an AA from Cena. 1, 2, 3. Cena is the new WWE champion, and Kennedy has lost his title. The next night on Raw, Kennedy comes out and he is furious. He had a horrible night the night before. He feels he got screwed over. He's still the best in this company right now. As far as he's concerned, he's still the champion. There's nobody in this company bigger than him. Then out comes Vince. And Vince points out that it was all him. The hotel getting canceled, no locker room, turning the lights out. It was all Vince. He wants to teach Kennedy a lesson of what happens when you mess with the McMahon. So he announces that at Backlash, he's going to face Kennedy himself in a no disqualification match. Now we have the match. Kennedy seems to have a fairly good amount of control. I mean, he is the actual wrestler. We're going to get our typical, case where Vince still puts up a good fight, even though he really shouldn't. But Kennedy's having to deal with a lot of interference because all the guys who are helping him are not with him anymore. MVP gets involved. Orton gets involved. Finally, when it looks like Kennedy is about to get the win, Umaga comes out, beats the ever-loving crap out of Kennedy. And finally, McMahon gets the pin. He stands over an unconscious Kennedy and basically says, and that's what happens, pal, when you mess with Vince McMahon. Kennedy disappears for a few weeks. That's the end of the story. When Kennedy eventually comes back, we start moving him on to other stuff, but he's now had that big moment being the champion. We've pushed him up. He's gotten established now, so we can use him as a top guy in any future case. But the Mr. McMahon's illegitimate son story is now done. So what do you guys think? Do you like the way I booked Kennedy as Vince McMahon's illegitimate son? Would you have done this differently? If so, tell me about it. I would love to know how you guys would have potentially booked this story. Next time, I haven't actually fully scripted it yet, but I'll go ahead and give you a little preview. Next time on this little series, we're going to be looking at what if Mark Marrow was allowed to use the Johnny B. Bad gimmick in the WWF. A little something to look forward to. But that's all I've got on this one, so until next time.